gone. Hello everyone, I'm KO. For today's video, I'm gonna be making a plushie. These plushies used to be very popular. I'm gonna be making sock plushies. I've made many of these plushies, some of which I still have, or I've sold them to people that have wanted their own, which I regret every day. And I've even made itty bitty ones. And their hands connect together. I made this for my husband and this little bab too, which is the first tiny little keychain one I've made. I have a character planned already and it's gonna take me quite a bit of time because they're very detailed and I hope you like them. So let's get to the video. Okay, this is the character that I'm gonna be making. Her name is Candy. Just gonna bring over my art supplies. And out of all of that, this is the only thing that I'm using. Of course, you need the socks. Oh, I'm just playing with it. I'm going to start off with the head and I stuff it full until it forms a round shape. And I pull it so that all the fluff goes to the top. I also just want to say thank you so much for all the support on my first video. I'm still trying to figure out my audio and video settings, so if anything sounds weird or looks weird, I promise it'll get better with time. I trim the sock back before I sew it so that I can stuff the ends inside of the head. You'll see in a minute. Oh, I've just stabbed my poor little child. And for the first stitch, I tie a loop. And then I just go around doing an in and out stitch. Get out of here, thread. The stitching is the most time-consuming part, but at the same time, it's so satisfying. And I wrap it around my finger so I can pull it easier. And then I'm just stuffing the seams into the head. Look at that, so round. Anyway, onto the body. I'm just inverting the sock so that I can draw on the inside. Then you get the heel part, give it a nice little squish, and that's gonna act as the little tushy for the sitting position. Just drawing on the legs on the other side, opposite of the tushy. And with any good side to good side stitching, I do back stitching. Then I wrap the needle in the end thread so that it doesn't come loose. And now I'm just inverting the sock, nice little feetsies. Then I just stuff it, making sure to make small little stuffings for the feet first and then filling in the body.
Look at that nice little tushy.
I just need to add more stuffing to that area. Yeah, that looks good. Now I'm bringing in my button-shaped pins. I'm just going to use them as a marker so I don't cut further than the body. Bringing in the scissors. This is the same deal as the head. I just go around with a normal stitch, then pull it closed and put the seam in the body. And I'm just going to squeeze it in. Okay, and this is how we're looking. So far, so good. This video might also be longer because I did kind of want to go more in depth with how I make them, but for future videos, I'm just gonna do a lot of jump cuts. Now I'm gonna add the pattern on the back of the body. Goodbye, little kitty, we don't need you here. And I'm just putting the socks good side to good side because I'm just gonna draw the outline of where I want the pattern to be. I also pin it so that it doesn't fall when I'm trying to draw. The thing I like about sock plushies is that the material is very forgiving, so even if you mess up, it's not really that noticeable. And with this stitch, I do a ladder stitch. So every time I go forward, I make a knot. You can't even notice it on the sock because pretty much all of the fluff texture hides it. And it's also good to use white thread for that reason. I also use my thumb to stop the fabric from flying away while I'm holding it so that I can actually get the proper shape before stitching it in. Sock plushies are meant to be one of those things that don't take a lot of time, but because I put so much detail into it, it ends up taking me 8 hours for something that usually would only take like 2 hours. And look at the pattern, and once you stitch it, it just looks like they're a part of each other. Testing the head. And you can also squish the head if it goes out of shape. Now it's time to sew the head on, and I just use pins to pin it down and adjust where the head's gonna sit. With this one, the stitch is a little complicated. I do a bottom stitch and then a top stitch. And now I'm just pulling the thread, and you can really see how the head and body come together really well. It's looking really good so far. Now, onto the ears. I'm just pinning the areas that I don't want to be in the final plushie. Sorry edges, we don't want you. I'm drawing a line in the middle so I can make the ears symmetrical. And then before I stitch, I'm going to cut the bottom in half because that's going to be the opening for the stuffing. And that's it. That's pretty much the whole shape of the ears. I just tested to see if the ear shape is good or if anything needs to be adjusted. There's those little swirls at the top of Candy's ears, and they're meant to be like little lollipops. So I just got this pink piece of fabric and I'm just rolling it to see if this is going to be a good shape. It looks good, but it's too long, so I'm going to double it and then I'm going to ladder stitch it together. This part was very finicky, and I would say it was my least favorite part because
of how time consuming and how small of a detail this was.
But it was worth it in the end because it does actually look really good. Then I decided, why don't I add white to make it look more like a lollipop?
Which is giving myself even more work.
But look how good it came out. Then I'm just doing a ladder stitch to connect the ears and the tips together.
Woohoo, and that's done.
Kind of looking like a clown. But then I'm also going to add a bunch of things so it looks more like an animal anyway. And also Candy is meant to be a cat, by the way. Onto the nose color now. Same thing as before, good side to good side, then I pin and draw. I have to think where to actually put the mouth. I don't want it to be too big because then it's going to cover the eye area and it's going to look weird. And then I just do the same ladder stitch as before. With the next seam, it's really hard to get into the ends, so I just do a back stitch for that part. Just sewing the ears on too. And it's really finicky to get the ears on because I like to keep both ears pinned, which means that the other one is just flopping in the air and it's really hard to not make it fall off. Look at the ears, oh I love them so much. Now I'm doing the cheek fluffs, and that's also going to be a good side sew. This is what's going to make it look more like an animal rather than a clown. And I'm just using my finger to block where the stitch is because I really don't want to cut that and have to sew it again. Anywhere that doesn't fit, I can just pull back with the pins. Whoa, vacuum jump scare. There is so much fluff everywhere. Please help me. The other cheek accidentally fell off, so I couldn't even see if they were being stitched right, but it's fine. I guess it was just too fat with all that stuffing. Now I'm moving on to the tail, but then I realized halfway through drawing the tail, I like the other one better, because it's a better shape for the tail. Seeing if it looks good, and it does. Again with the same stitch that I used to attach the head and the body together. Now I'm just forming it into the right shape again because after sewing it, it gets really deformed when you're putting so much pressure on it. And onto the little handsies. I just make 4 circles, then use a little drawstring like I did for the head and the body to make little balls. Then roll a little ball of stuffing and put it in. That's all the paws on. And this is where I started to get very experimental. I was just gonna paint them on with fabric paint. Then I realized this would actually be a way better idea for the plushies. It was kind of difficult to get this first one through, so that's alright, nothing pliers can't fix. With this bigger thread, I just hide it inside of the plushie because if you make a knot, it's really noticeable. These bigger yarns are quite finicky because they kind of just go wherever they want to when you're sewing. So sometimes I have to go over an area again and again until it gets the right shape. It's meant to be like little sprinkles. At least I hope it looks like sprinkles to everyone. I'm gonna use these little white pieces as placements for the eyes because I'm gonna do the eyebrows now.
Oh my gosh, this looks like nightmare fuel.
But it's fine because it's only temporary. I think I did the eyebrows a little bit too high up, but it's not that noticeable. And here's where the regret sets in. I don't know if I'm happy with these paws. I kind of just did them on a whim and I'm like, oh, I'm not super happy with them, but it's fine. It's not the main part and you barely see them anyway, which is a good thing. I mean, it's okay. And then for the cheeksies, I'm gonna get some chalk pastel and I'm gonna just dust that on. So it looks like a sweet little blush. I tried just using the paintbrush directly onto the chalk pastel and it did not pick up anything. So I had to cut it off and I was hoping this was gonna work. I wasn't even sure, to be honest. But surprisingly it did. It worked really well. Oh, look how sweet the cheeks look. And here comes more regret. Oh, the blows just keep coming and coming. I tried making little sprinkles on the face, but you can barely notice it. And the pinks don't match. It just looks like a mess. At least you can barely notice the pink because it's being overpowered by the neon cheek blush. But at least you can see the yellow sprinkles. So it kind of worked. Yeah, that looks good. I'm hoping that the eyes can save this. This is also where I got really experimental. I was again gonna do this a different way, and then I decided last minute, hey, why don't I just paint the eyes? And it might fail for this video, but you know, it's fine. While I was cutting it, I was just thinking, you know, I really hope this works. Because there's no going back if it doesn't. Just checking the position of the eyes to see if it actually looks good. This material is felt, by the way, so it's really easy to work with, just like the soft plushies that look so painful.
Sorry.
But it's just temporary because I'm gonna stitch even more regret with this mouth. I didn't have a different brown, so the brown is quite prominent compared to the rest of the colors on the plushie. I really need to go get more colors. I had to take the eyes off because they were getting in the way, but they were also just temporary so that I could see that I'm putting the mouth in the right place, so I don't need it anymore. And time for more experimenting. I'm just using puffy paint to paint the eyes. I started with a lighter color and then I went to work on making the shadow of the eye. So this is going to be in the same style as my digital drawings. Oh, hello me. And I just had to mix a darker color to paint in the pupil now. This fabric just absorbs the paint. Doing the other eye. If you remember, she has two different color eyes.
Heterochromia.
And the pink was just way too pink, so I added some purple to make it more muted. So it's more like a magenta color than a like neon pink. And that's what they look like. You know, for a first attempt, I actually think they turned out really well, considering I've never done that before. Now I'm just going to use some fabric glue to glue them on. I don't want to use anything like hot glue or super glue or any PVA glues because that's going to turn really hard, and that's not what I want for a plushie. I want it to be super squishy. And if you didn't notice, I didn't let this dry fully because I was too impatient to see what it would look like because I was really excited for this new technique. Oh, the regret list just keeps getting longer and longer. I tried making a little cake splatter on her mouth to make it seem like she was eating some sweets, but then this first attempt just ended up looking like barf, so that was a fail. I tried with yellow, but then that just ended up looking like boogers, and I couldn't wipe it off, so I just tried saving it by going over it with pink. But anyway, we can't go back now, and I think it turned out really good, so here are the final shots. Oh my gosh, she turned out way better than I thought she would, and I'm so happy with it, and I hope you guys all enjoyed the process too. And if you were wondering what that shelf is for in the back, I'm going to be putting all of the projects this year that I'm working on, and who better to start with than the first one I've completed, Little Candy. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!